The first thing to realize is that we all get trapped in the old story. We get trapped in what we know. And we recreate it, and that's true individually, it's true in families, it's true in cultures, it's true in societies. And often, it is a natural cycle, and I think the thing that allows the cycle to be healthy and not destructive fundamentally is when the new story is allowed to be brought in, the new story is listened for, the new story is allowed to unfold. And it's not that it's predetermined, it's not deterministic. There are many ways the new story can come in, there are many forms it can take. I tend to look for and hope for the things that are life-affirming and connecting of people to each other and their greatest good for everyone. It's always the moment for a new story on a smaller scale, and then there are true moments in larger scales when new stories can come in. They can't always come in. Or if they do, it's going to be for a very small number of people. I guess I think the thing that's most important to consider around the question of a new story is, do we have the tools and the capacity to hear it when it's there? How can we listen for it? And how can we be open to it in our lives and in our societies and our cultures? The story of, never-ending expansion of the economy and the earth being a resource to be exploited, inert, dead thing that we can do what we want with, pretty big and obvious over the last 300, 400 years. I don't believe that the news story is out yet. There's certainly all kinds of things that have emerged over the last 50 years and more about what the news story might be. But is it less hierarchical and more communal? Is it more spiritual in whatever sense that means? I mean, that's a large-scale news story. On a urban development end, because I'm really interested in that, the old story is large-scale, architect-driven buildings that serve as expressions of power and control, dominance even, has really shaped the form of our cities. And I would say actually in the more recent past, they've even taken beauty out of that for the most part, out of that equation. There's not a whole lot of room in that for what I believe is the news story. A news story is evolving that has to do with greater integration of life in neighborhoods, greater mixed use, mixed income, different relationship to materials. I don't know if that clarifies it, but to me that's a pretty powerful story that affects how we live day to day. I couldn't have thought this if the news story wasn't coming in, but I feel like I live my life the most successfully when, on whatever level, whether it's as an artist or entrepreneur or a father or family member or whatever it is, when I can listen most deeply for what is arising in the moment that resonates with some simple basic values, and that where I'm not held in by predetermined story of an ideology. Yeah, so there's a great story there, right? Very progressive communism. It's a giant story that came out of a really, in many ways, positive impulse, and that took a monolithic and vastly destructive form. And then it's taken a long time that now there are many people who understand that the new story is not the new ideology, it's understanding that ideology is a dead end.